Hi guys, welcome back to the Department of Filtration. Today we're going to be looking at the Napa oil filter NOF1-S. Now this here is a Australian Napa oil filter. Where I'm from, we don't have any Napa auto parts stores. But I know, like on the mainland and down in more major cities, that we're starting to have more Napa auto parts stores. And so this, I know that in the US, a lot of guys from the US, you can get Napa filters in different grades and stuff, and they're all different numbers. But this is just, you can only just get one for each application here, and this is what they look like. So my guess is it's going to be fairly different to a American one, but my guess is that this is actually going to end up being very similar to the Australian, if not exactly the same as the current Australian Repco oil filters, and even you can see on the box some very close similarities there. So I've got a Repco one that I've previously cut up and done a video on, but we're going to be looking at this filter by itself and also comparing it to Repco one. So I've got a feeling it's going to be the exact same. They're both Z9 equivalents. So we'll start with the box. The oil filter, superior synthetic media with a little star, which when we look at that, majority of oil filters contain synthetic media unidentified by the suffix S in the part number. So it'll be interesting to see. Made in Indonesia. As far as I can understand, this is just Napa oil filter 1 and then synthetic. So it comes with a service sticker. Something important. We've got the big blue filter. Nothing else there. Over there. So we've got a pretty basic can. Napa. Here's a part number, can use Z9. It's all printed on the can. Just fitting instructions on the back. A little date code. Alright, so I got a plastic cover, which is not too well on there, but we'll probably do something. It's alright. Typical sort of Z9 top with a small amount of inlet holes and a gasket with a fair bit of edge there, but that's pretty normal. Our gasket. Our little locating rings. The width to it there, just not bad. It comes off pretty easy, but I'll sort of give you guys an idea. This is sort of the price of what would be like a budget oil filter. So this is like $7 or $8, I think. So, you know, it's not like it's a performance filter or anything. It's just like a cheap basic replacement. So I reckon we'll go ahead and get this cut open and see what we're looking at. Rightio, so we've got this cut open. Have a look at the base plate. So there's not a huge amount of holes, but for the type of filter it is, it's not bad. It's just fairly standard. Got 4 threads there, which is not bad. Not bad at all. Little lip there, see how our valve seals. Quite loose there. But the seals around that edge pretty good, so it wouldn't be bad, and that's just standard rubber. Nothing particularly special about that, but it doesn't appear to be any problems with it. We've got our element. So we've got our little coil spring, which is good. Nice to have. And a little spring base thing to go in the bottom of the can. Just does, I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see that there, that little indent. Does appear to fit within that indent, which will help locate it, which is good. So it doesn't go off center and make the element skew with. In terms of the can, the width. Just about 0.4 millimeters, which is just pretty basic, pretty standard. Once again, it's not particularly narrow, it's just standard. Nothing special, nothing bad about it either though. And in terms of decor, also not too bad. You got a little coil bypass there. Got a locating tabs which actually fit quite nicely in the tin there. I do like it when they have tabs on, just to help keep it centered. Between that and the indentation on the bottom, the element should stay nice and straight in there. Metal crimp seam. It's like a center core with holes, but we'll have a look at that in a second. Not too bad on the glue. Looks like it's actually got a fairly decent amount. Yeah, we'll get that cut open and we'll have a look at it. Okay, so I got the media cut out and it's about 2.5 meters long and width is about 86 mil. Now, as you can see, there's a bit of a colour difference here. It's a little bit hard to see on the camera, that's a bit better. On the edges you got the nice sort of brown typical colour, and you can see that it's brown, but on the inside it's yellow. Which means generally that it's been, this paper gets treated, because obviously I'm not quite sure why, whether it's to handle the heat or just to hold it together under pressure, or when it's saturated with liquid or whatever. This uneven colouring indicates that it's been treated after it's been put on the element, which means that it's not evenly distributed. You can see here, so the end has had a lot of treatment and the inside not so much. Whereas manufacturers of, say, maybe more expensive filters would treat the paper before it goes in the filter when it's all nice and flat, and so it will be evenly treated and everything all good. But here this has been done the cheap way, slightly a bit dodgy, which is it's essentially just a lower quality product there. It's not going to stand up as well as something that's been treated properly with a little bit more care gone into it. We'll just have a quick look at the element under the microscope, and just make sure it's all good. Alrighty, so I had a look under the microscope there. The media, there's no holes in it, and there's no issues there, but I would say it just looks generally fairly low quality, some pretty big strands there. Now, one thing I want to talk about, which annoys me a little bit, is this. Synthetic media, superior synthetic media. Now, to discuss this, I'm going to go ahead and just say that this is exactly the same as the Repco filters. We'll have a look at that in a second, but on the Repco box and on the website, it says superior synthetic blend media, which is what this would be. It's very, very minimal amount of synthetic fibres within this cellulose, but if they want to claim that it's synthetic blend, I'd probably believe it. And their website is clear that it's a synthetic blend media, and that and there you go. Synthetic and cellulose blend, delivering superior performance to a cellulose filtration media, which is just good. That's fine. Personally, I don't really care much about synthetic blends because it may add some fineness to the filtration, making it a little bit finer. But the thing is, it has to cover all the big holes that are in the cellulose for it to be finer. So even if there was synthetic fibres on half of it, then the other half would still be letting big things through. So I don't really see how that would be. But another thing is it also just has all the downfalls of this. This stuff doesn't flow well. It gets clogged easily. It expands if it gets waterlogged and then will tear. All those bad things about cellulose, having a synthetic blend doesn't do absolutely anything about. So it's fine if you want to get synthetic blend media. I don't particularly have a preference between that and just standard cellulose, but then they go and change their advertising to this. And we can notice that they've omitted a word here, and that is blend, and they've just said synthetic media. On the back, same thing, just synthetic media. Now, to me, if I was walking into a shop and I wanted to buy and I saw synthetic media, I would think that's a good quality filter. That's probably going to be, micro glass or, fiberglass or any other of those, or polymer-based synthetic media, the white, thick white stuff that's really fine, doesn't get waterlogged, doesn't tear, flows really well, all that stuff. And to me, that's what this is claiming to be, something like, example, this royal purple here, What does that say on the box? 100% synthetic microglass media. You can see like it's the white stuff here. You know, this oil filter is more than 3 times the price of this. Obviously it's a bit of size difference, but when you see that, that's what people will start to think. But then you open the filter up and you see this, which is, in my opinion that you can choose to believe or not believe, this is pretty low quality. There's no issues, but there's certainly better medias out there. And if there is synthetic fibres in here, that's very minimal. It's like they've just put one in there so they can say it's synthetic. Anyway, that's what gets me. It's probably all perfectly legal and everything, but to me, personally, I would say that was sort of false advertising. So there it is. It's definitely not micro glass or polymer or anything like that. It's just cellulose with a few synthetic fibres whacked in there for good measure and advertising. That's my little rant about that. But in terms of compared to the Repco filter, this thing is just exactly the same. We've got our tins here. It's the only thing that's different, but it's still pretty much the exact same style. I'll just line the parts up here. So we've got tins, I forgot to comment on this, but yeah, pretty nice centre tube just with holes. Pretty solid, there's no issues there either. Ring back on. Base plates, identical. Centre cores. Well, that's one thing that's the ever so slightest difference. And Napa's got little sheet metal tabs, and the Repco's actually got like a bent out thing. That is the only difference on the whole filter, I think. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's different. It can just mean it's a different, you know. This one, what's the date code? Can't see one on there. This one might be a year old, and this one might be, you know, a month old. Any drain back valves, exactly the same. Coil springs, same. We have little spring plates. Even the service stickers, they even say pretty much the same thing. And boxes, as I showed you before, very similar. Filter media is exactly the same too, exactly the same things. Same length, same low quality treatment with the different colours. So in general, I would say that if you're after something very cheap and very easy to get a hold of, this is probably quite a good option, you know. I haven't found any issues with anything here. There's nothing for me to go, oh, I wouldn't use that because of this. I mean, all the elements of a good filter are here. We've got a metal, full metal element, coil spring, and these, well, I mean, you could have a silicon, you could have a better type of gasket that stays on better, but that doesn't matter too much. And in terms of your paper, I mean, it's pretty well just on the low quality end. Like these, the elements of it are good, but it's just sort of on the low quality end. So if you're after something real cheap and easy, I certainly don't see any problems with this filter, but there is better things you could spend your money on. And yes, it is exactly the same as your standard Repco filters. So there you have it. It's the Napa NOF1-S oil filter.